Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. Thank you.
That's Walt Disney on opening day of Disneyland, dedicating this park to all of us with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world. And it's no understatement that Disneyland has been all that and more. Today you can see this speech memorialized on a plaque at the base of the flagpole at Town Square. Walt Disney's memory and his legend are honored in this way and in many other ways throughout the park. In fact, it can be a bit of an adventure to try and find all the Walt Disney homages. Kind of like searching for hidden Mickeys, but in this episode of Fresh Baked, we're going to be on the lookout for hidden Walts. And we'll get started by staying right here in Town Square, but we're going to turn around and head up the Main Street train station to find a tribute to Walt Disney and his love of trains. A tribute that is missed by at least half of Disneyland Railroad guests, as anyone turning left won't even know it's there. But if when you enter, you turn right, you'll find photos of Walt with his trains and a reminder that though the Disney Company was started by a mouse, as Walt is known to have said, Disneyland was started by a 1/8 scale model train called the Carolwood Pacific. And while we're here at the Disneyland Railroad, don't forget the Lilly Belle. The Lilly Belle is a travel car at the back of the CK Holiday and is named in honor of Walt's wife Lillian Disney. The car used to be open to all guests on a limited basis, but today is available to ride only for those taking the Walk in Walt's Footsteps tour. We don't have to go far for our next remembrance of Walt. Just down the steps and to the right of the train station is the Main Street Opera House, where we can find something that just about every fan of Disneyland will get a chill from. You've probably heard the story, as told by Walt, that it was the carousel in Griffith Park where Walt's first plans for Disneyland began to germinate. He would sit on this bench while his family played in the park and rode the carousel, eating peanuts, and think to himself, there should be a place where both kids and parents could have a good time. And according to Disney, this is that bench. And that is one of the horses from the carousel on loan from the park. Not sure though if those are the actual peanuts. Before leaving Town Square, we'll head over to the Main Street Fire Station to take a look at Walt's apartment. Now, this one is not exactly a secret. Pretty much everybody knows about Walt's apartment, but I feel like we can't do a piece about how Walt is remembered in the park without at least mentioning it. You see, it goes without saying, when someone of Walt's importance arrives at your place of business, you want to know and you want to be ready. And so it came to be that whenever Walt was in the park, that lamp in the window of the apartment would be turned on. If the lamp was off, Walt wasn't there. If the light was on, be on the lookout. Today, the light is always on to remember Walt Disney and to help us all remember that he is here with us at Disneyland, always. Let's go to Main Street. What Walt defined as the heartline of America, and it's here on Main Street where we find several more ways to remember Walt, starting with the Main Street Cinema. It is often said that Main Street was modeled after the Main Street in Marceline, Missouri, where Walt spent some of his boyhood years. And so whenever you see reference to Marceline, know that it's a nod to Walt and his history. And you can find one at the Main Street Cinema. Now, in order to visit the Main Street Cinema, you have to get a ticket, and your hostess is the lovely Tilly. And like all Disneyland cast members, Tilly is wearing a name tag. And like all name tags at Disneyland, it sports the hometown of that cast member. Tilly's hometown, Marceline, Missouri, a subtle nod to Walt's hometown. Up the street at the intersection of Main Street and Center Street, we'll also find another nod to Walt's hometown, the Hotel Marceline. Spend a few minutes here and you're apt to hear the occasional guest enjoying their stay, maybe even hear him singing in the shower. Now, one of the hallmarks of a walk down Main Street at Disneyland is the many windows you can see remembering Disney legends of the past. Legends like Marty Sklar, Tony Baxter, the Sherman Brothers, and Ron Dominguez Jr. Among those windows, guests can also find a few windows that honor Walt and those that inspired him. People like his father, Elias Disney, and even Walt Disney himself. This window here is dedicated to Elias Disney, Walt's father, who among other things was in fact a contractor. The window has been there since opening day in 1955. The window indicates the year of 1895, and interestingly, it is not known what this year represents. According to the Disney Parks blog, it is best believed that this was the year that Elias first became a contractor. Meanwhile, Walt's window is in two parts. The first, a traditional window declaring Walt the founder and director emeritus of the Disneyland Casting Agency, paying homage, of course, to one of Walt's greatest talents, identifying talent and putting his designers and cast members into positions they can succeed at. The second part is one of my favorite little gems in the entire park. Nearby is this sign, which is something of a casting call in the style of a vintage newspaper article declaring that it takes people to make a dream a reality. Looking closely, one can find all kinds of fun jobs you can apply for. Now casting. 7 openings for minor roles. Must work well with animals, princesses, and whistle while you work. Short hours. Oh my god. Okay. Wanted. 1 airborne pixie. Aerial artist to fly the nighttime extravaganza. See T. Klein for further info. And if you're wondering who T. Klein is, well, she is in fact the very first flying Tinkerbell at Disneyland. I encourage everyone to stop a second on Main Street, see a show at the Main Street Cinema, meet Tilly, and read the casting bill just outside the theater. It just might be the most Disney thing you do all day. We'll head back inside and make our way now to Fantasyland, but before going in formally, we'll stop in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle to see one of my favorite ways to remember Walt. On the castle, dead center over the drawbridge and the entrance to the castle, is Walt Disney's family coat of arms. This family crest, a simple design of 3 lions, was placed there in 1965, but there's actually some question as to whether or not it is the actual family crest. Some believe it was made up, possibly by the Disney company themselves, but I prefer to think that it is authentic. At minimum, I'm sure that's what we're intended to understand, and it's more fun this way too. Now we'll pass through the castle next and head over to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and inside there is a mural that retells Toad's story as found in the attraction. You can find all of Toad's friends, his drive through the countryside into some kind of purgatory, or just to nowhere in particular. You can also find Toad's run-in with a steam train, a train named the Wed Rail, which of course is a reference to the Walter Elias Disney, and Walt did love a train. Over in New Orleans Square we'll find one of the less obvious Walt Disney references in the park. You'll remember Walt's famous opening day speech that we referenced at the beginning of the video, the one that was memorialized in the plaque at the base of the flagpole in Town Square. This speech is also remembered at the New Orleans Square train station. While waiting for your train, listen for the sounds of a telegraph machine sending a message out in Morse code. That message is Walt's opening day speech, or the first 2 lines of it anyway. We'll head next to Toontown for another window. This window indicates it's the home of the Laugh-O-Gram Film Company with W.E. Disney as the directing animator. Of course, we all know who W.E. Disney is, but there may be some still who do not know how Laugh-O-Gram fits in. Laugh-O-Gram was Walt's very first company that made short animated films in the early 20s and was home to the very first piece of animation Walt ever sold. And finally, we'll visit Frontierland to find this petrified tree. It's one of those things that most walk by without a thought, unless you're on a guided tour and your host stops there. Now, the tree is believed to be more than 55 million years old and was purchased by Walt Disney in 1956 as a gift for his wife Lillian, and then a year later was re-gifted to Disneyland by Lillian, stating that it did not fit on their mantle. Or the story goes. As told by many other people, even the Disney family. But I'm sure most could see that not even the workaholic Walt would give a 2-ton petrified tree as an anniversary gift. There is another story for the petrified tree, one that makes much more sense and is even a little funny. The tree was bought by Walt while on vacation with Lillian, except he did so while she was, waiting in the car, patiently, more or less, as the story is told. And when the tree was finally delivered to the park, it was done so directly, not via Holmby Hills, Walt's home at the time. And it was done with that added embellishment that it was a gift to Lillian. Of course, this was more of an inside joke, a nod to the fact that, of course, Lillian would not enjoy a 2-ton tree as an anniversary present. And you know what, if you ask me, I much prefer this story. And those, fresh baked, are some of our favorite ways to remember Walt Disney in the parks today. Hidden Waltz, if you will. What are your favorites among this list? What other ways can you think of that pay homage to the man who gave us this wonderful gift? Let us know in the comments below, and until next time, remember to love Disney every day and fresh baked.